You know that moment. You're lying in bed, 11:47 p.m., phone glowing in the dark, thumb scrolling, autopilot. And there it is, a 25-year-old with perfect lighting, perfect teeth, and a very suspiciously clean Tesla parked behind them saying, "Just hit 7 figures in my portfolio, started with $500 and a dream." And you? You're mentally calculating how much you still owe on your minivan. You feel it, don't you? That low-key dread, the sneaking suspicion that the train left the station and you're still tying your shoes. Well, what if I told you right now that everything you think about age and money is completely, dangerously wrong? Your 40s? They're not the financial expiration date everyone pretends they are. They're your wealth ignition point. Your 40s aren't where dreams go to die. They're where dreams finally get fuel. My name is Henry, and I spend way too much time doing two things. First, crunching the actual math behind what builds real, lasting wealth. Not hype, not hot takes, real numbers. Second, I study the psychology that separates the people who escape the paycheck treadmill from the ones who run on it until the wheels fall off. And if you're in your 40s and you're tired of feeling like you're behind, if you've ever looked at your 401k balance and thought, is this all it's ever going to be? Then this next 15 minutes, it could be the most important financial reset of your life. So hit subscribe, give this a thumbs up, because what I'm about to show you flips the entire script. And no, this isn't just stay positive fluff. This is backed by neuroscience, labor economics, real-world case studies, and the brutal truth about how wealth actually gets built. Let's begin with a question nobody asks. What if starting early is overrated? Wait, don't click away. Hear me out. Yes, compound interest is powerful, no argument. But here's what no one tells you. Compound interest doesn't just need time, it needs fuel. And guess what? Your ability to pour serious fuel into that engine, it peaks in your 40s. Let me prove it. Right now, your brain, that incredible, messy, brilliant organ between your ears, it hasn't declined, it's evolved. Harvard researchers tracked cognitive performance across 50,000 professionals. What did they find? Fluid intelligence, raw processing speed, pattern matching on the fly. That peaks in your 20s, but crystallized intelligence, that's your ability to synthesize complex information, to weigh risk, to see second and third order consequences. It accelerates through your 30s and hits full stride in your 40s. Think of it like this. A 25-year-old has the horsepower of a race car, but 0 miles on the odometer. They can floor it, but they don't know which turns to take, which roads are washed out, which shortcuts are actually shortcuts. You've driven through recessions, market crashes, layoffs, inflation spikes. You've seen companies rise on hype and implode in 18 months. You've watched people chase crypto moonshots and lose their down payment. You've lived enough cycles to know when someone says, "This time is different," it never is. That's not pessimism, that's pattern recognition. And pattern recognition, that's the real compound interest of decision-making. It doesn't show up on a balance sheet, but it saves you hundreds of thousands in avoidable mistakes. Still not convinced? Let's talk data. Harvard Business Review analyzed peak performance across 2.7 million professionals. What age range delivered the highest sustained output in complex, knowledge-based work? 47 to 52. Not 28, not 35, late 40s. Why? Because that's where three things align. 1. Deep expertise. 2. Strategic judgment. And 3. Enough energy left to execute. You're not just experienced, you're optimized. Take Sam Walton. He spent 20 years running small-town variety stores. Decent income, modest success. At 44, most people would have said, "I'm too old to start from scratch." He opened Walmart, one store in Rogers, Arkansas. By 52,
19 stores. By 64, over 1,000. Today, the Walton family is worth over $240 billion. But here's the part no one highlights. He didn't invent discount retail. He didn't have a tech breakthrough. He had timing and judgment. He knew when to scale. He knew where to place stores. He knew how to build culture, not from theory, but from 2 decades of trial, error, and painful lessons. That's not youth. That's maturity in motion. Or consider Julia Child. She didn't find her calling until 36, didn't write her first cookbook, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, until she was 59, wasn't on TV until 50. People told her she was too old, too tall, too loud, too much. She didn't care, because she knew something critical. Mastery doesn't obey clocks. It obeys consistency. And here's the thing about your 40s you're probably underestimating. This is your peak earning window. Let's get concrete. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows median household income peaks between 45 and 54. But that's median. Let's look at you, someone who's been building skills, responsibility, influence. PayScale analyzed over 2 million salary profiles. What did they find? For college-educated professionals, earnings at 35 around $85,000. Earnings at 45, around $115,000. Earnings at 50, around $130,000. That's a 53% increase from mid-30s to early 50s. And for specialized roles, a cardiologist or orthopedic surgeon, $550,000 plus by mid-40s. Engineering director at a tech firm, $350,000 to $500,000 total comp. Partner at a mid-sized law firm, $600,000 plus. Senior product leader, $400,000 all in.
This isn't luck. This is career capital compounding. You've built something invisible but incredibly valuable. A reputation for delivering under pressure. A network of people who trust you. The ability to diagnose problems before they escalate. The confidence to say no to distractions and yes to leverage. You don't trade hours anymore. You trade judgment. And judgment, that scales. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the one that's probably whispering in your ear right now. But Henry, what about compound interest? Didn't I waste my 20s and 30s? Am I doomed? Let me stop you right there, because here's the truth no finance guru wants to admit. The start at 25 story is rigged. How? Because it assumes you could have invested meaningful money back then. But let's be real. At 25, you were paying off student loans, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates who didn't know how to load a dishwasher, eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch because $6 for avocado toast felt like a luxury. $500 a month? For most people, that was impossible. But at 42, $1,500 a month? That's doable, especially if you've leveled up your income. So let's run the numbers, not the hypothetical ones, but the realistic ones. Scenario A, the early starter. Starts at 25, invests $500 a month, gets 7% average return, stops at 65. Total invested, $240,000. Final balance, around $1.3 million. Impressive, but that assumes perfect behavior for 40 years. No career breaks, no market panic sells, no life emergencies derailing contributions. Now, scenario B, the so-called late starter. Starts at 40, invests $1,500 a month, same 7% return, stops at 65. Total invested, $450,000. Final balance, around $1.2 million. Wait, almost the same result in 15 fewer years. And here's the kicker. That $1,500 a month, that's just 12.5% of a $144,000 annual income. Not extreme, not sacrificial, just intentional. But let's go further. What if, thanks to that peak earning power, you saved $2,500 a month starting at 40? Final balance at 65? $2 million.
You've beaten the early starter by $700,000, and you worked 15 fewer years. Now, let me hit you with the ultimate mic drop. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, the man whose name is compound interest. When did he become a billionaire? At 56. 56! And get this, 99% of his net worth, 99 billion of his 100 billion, was accumulated after age 50. Let that sink in. The world's greatest investor didn't even enter his financial prime until most people start thinking about downsizing and slowing down. He wasn't behind, he was on schedule. So, what's really happening in your 40s that makes this decade so powerful? It's not just income, it's wisdom. Not the kind you get from a podcast, the kind you get from losing real money. Remember that time you bought a timeshare because they gave you free tickets to Disneyland? Yeah, you don't do that anymore. You've seen the guaranteed return seminars. You've watched friends get wrecked by leveraged real estate in 2007. You've seen crypto gurus vanish overnight. You didn't just learn about risk, you lived it. And that builds something I call your financial immune system. It's why you don't panic when the market drops 10% in a week. You've been here before. You know corrections average 14% every year. You know bear markets, 20% or drops, happen every 5 to 6 years. You know recessions last on average 11 months. You don't react, you respond. And that calm, that's worth millions. Because while others sell low in fear, you buy. You understand something dangerous but true. The biggest risk isn't losing money in the market. The biggest risk is not being in it. Cash feels safe, but inflation, it's a silent thief. Over 25 years, 3% inflation halves your purchasing power. $100,000 today, in 2050, it buys what $50,000 buys now. Keeping money safe in a savings account? That's not conservative, that's guaranteed loss. But here's what your 40s give you that money can't buy: clarity. You've tried enough jobs to know what drains you and what fuels you. You've been in enough relationships to know the kind of people you want beside you. You've made enough purchases to know the difference between want and need. You don't chase shiny objects anymore. You don't invest in revolutionary apps because your nephew says it's going to be the next Uber. You invest in systems, low-cost index funds, cash-flowing real estate, businesses with real margins. You know wealth isn't built in home runs. It's built in consistent singles, day after day, year after year. Veronica Wang didn't become Vera Wang until 40. She'd spent 17 years at Vogue, climbed to senior editor, then passed over for editor-in-chief. A devastating blow. At 25, she might have spiraled, blamed the industry, quit fashion entirely. At 40, she recalibrated. She used every connection, every lesson, every ounce of industry knowledge, and launched her own bridal line. Within 5 years, dressing celebrities. Within 10, a global brand. Today, her name is synonymous with luxury bridal. She didn't start late. She started prepared. And that's the hidden advantage of your 40s. You skip the stupid phase. Let's be brutally honest. When you start investing in your 20s, you typically spend a decade making every mistake in the book. You buy high right after a bull run. You sell low during the first 10% dip. You chase last year's top-performing fund. You fall for whole life insurance investment pitches. You max out credit cards on must-have gadgets. Why? Because you haven't felt loss yet. You haven't watched your portfolio drop 30% and stayed the course. By your 40s, you can implement a boring portfolio on day one. 60% U.S. total market, 30% international, 10% bonds. Rebalance once a year. That's it. No stock picking, no market timing, no guru hopping, just consistency. And consistency, when paired with peak earnings, is unstoppable. But let's talk about something even more powerful, something no algorithm can replicate.
your ability to ignore noise. The financial world is designed to create panic every single day. Market crash imminent. Recession starts next quarter. This indicator hasn't flashed red since 1929. AI will destroy 40% of jobs by 2027. At 25, you read all of it. You change your strategy every time a new headline drops. You think more information means better decisions. But by 40, you've learned the brutal truth. Most financial noise is profit-driven theater. News outlets need clicks, gurus need followers, brokers need trades. But your portfolio? It doesn't care about headlines. It cares about time in the market. So you tune it out. You stick to the plan. And that discipline, that's the edge. Because while others are paralyzed by fear or FOMO, you're quietly compounding. Let me tell you about a client of mine. Let's call him David. 44 years old, married, 2 kids, makes $165,000 a year as a project manager. For years, he felt stuck, watched friends buy vacation homes, felt guilty about not doing enough for retirement. He dabbled in stocks, lost money in 2020 chasing Tesla options. Then he hit a wall. He sat down and did something radical. He stopped trying to get rich quick. Instead, he asked one question. What's the most boring, reliable way to build wealth, and how much can I really save right now? He maxed out his 401k match, $19,500, opened a Roth IRA, $7,000, started a brokerage account, $1,200 a month. Total savings rate, 31% of gross income. Not because he cut out coffee, because he negotiated a $28,000 raise using his 12 years of delivery track record. 3 years later, his portfolio crossed $200,000. He's on track for $2.3 million by 65. At 47, he didn't start early. He started smart. And that's the shift. You don't need more time. You need better inputs. More income, better strategy, fewer mistakes. That's the 40s advantage. But here's where most people still get stuck. They believe the myth that wealth building is linear, that if you didn't hit 500K by 40, you failed. Let me shatter that right now. Wealth is non-linear. It's flat for years, then explodes. Why? Because of compounding on top of compounding. Let's say you save $2,000 a month starting at 40. At 50, you've got roughly $330,000. At 65, approximately $560,000. At 60, approximately $880,000. At 65, approximately $1.3 million. Notice something? From 40 to 50, plus $330,000. From 50 to 60, plus $550,000. From 60 to 65, plus $420,000. The last 5 years added more than the first 10. That's the J-curve, the payoff decade. And you're entering it right now. But here's the real question.
Are you acting like someone in their wealth-building prime? Or are you still behaving like you're behind? Let me ask you, when was the last time you renegotiated your salary? Not asked for a cost of living bump, but repositioned your value using your track record, your unique insights, your institutional knowledge. Because here's what most 40-somethings don't realize. You're not competing with 25-year-olds on price. You're competing on leverage. A company can hire 3 juniors for your salary, but they can't get your judgment, your relationships, your ability to prevent million-dollar mistakes. That's worth a premium. Second question, are you still treating your home like an ATM, pulling equity for vacations, renovations, lifestyle upgrades? Because here's the truth. Your home is not your retirement plan. It's illiquid. It's undiversified. It costs money to maintain. I'm not saying don't own a home. I'm saying don't confuse net worth with liquid net worth. Real wealth, it's what you can access without selling your roof. Third, and most important, are you still letting shame drive your decisions? Comparing your Chapter 3 to someone else's highlight reel? Let me tell you something radical. Your timeline is yours. Julia Child was 50 before The French Chef aired. Colonel Sanders franchised KFC at 65. Ray Kroc bought McDonald's at 52. Stan Lee created the Marvel Universe in his 40s and 50s. Fantastic Four at 39, Spider-Man at 40, X-Men at 41. They weren't late, they were on time. Because mastery isn't about age, it's about accumulated insight. And you've got a decade of insight no 25-year-old can replicate. So what do you do right now? Not next quarter, not after the holidays, right now. Step 1. Run your numbers. Not generic calculators. Use your actual income, your actual savings rate, your realistic return assumptions. Plug in $1,500 a month at 7% for 25 years, $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month. See what's possible. Step 2. Audit your biggest leaks. Where is money silently escaping? Subscriptions you forgot? Insurance you overpay for? High-interest debt masquerading as manageable? One client found $387 a month in unused apps, gym memberships, and auto renewals he'd forgotten. That's $4,644 a year, $116,000 over 25 years at 7%. Free money. Step 3. Have one career conversation, not a resignation, a value conversation. Over the past 3 years, I've delivered X, Y, Z, resulting in X dollars in savings or revenue. Given my expanded scope and market rates, I'd like to discuss aligning my compensation with the value I'm creating. You're not begging, you're stating facts. Because here's the brutal reality. If you don't advocate for your worth, no one will. And your 40s, that's when advocacy works. You're not asking for a chance, you're presenting a record. Now, let me leave you with this. The most dangerous financial belief isn't, I'm bad with money. It's too late. That belief causes more wealth destruction than bear markets, inflation, or bad advice. Because it makes you stop trying. It makes you accept enough instead of abundant. It makes you scroll past opportunities because you're convinced they're not for you. But the data says otherwise. Your brain is peaking. Your income is peaking. Your judgment is peaking. You have more decades ahead than most people realize. Average life expectancy for a 45-year-old? 83 for men, 85 for women. You've got 40 years of life left. That's not a countdown, it's a runway. So stop comparing yourself to kids who got lucky with timing. Start building your legacy. Because wealth isn't about starting early, it's about starting serious. And you're just getting warmed up. If this shifted something for you, if it made you sit up a little straighter, think a little bigger, do me a favor, hit subscribe. Because next week, I'm breaking down the exact 5-step framework I use with clients to go from stuck to set in under 36 months. We'll cover what one conversation added $42,000 to a client's income in 90 days, how to turn your expertise into passive income without starting a podcast or YouTube channel, and why diversification is being misused, and the 3-asset strategy that actually works in 2025. This isn't theory, it's the playbook I use every day, but only if you're ready. So, subscribe, smash that like button if this resonated, and drop a comment below with this phrase, "My 40s are my launch pad." Say it out loud, because words shape belief, and belief shapes action, and action, that builds wealth. I'll see you in the next one.